Hi guys, it's Lexi, and today I'm going to be presenting the impacts of radiation on DNA repair mechanisms. So first, I inserted a little video here showing a DNA strand being damaged by X-rays and gamma rays, and it shows the DNA strand breaking, and then the cells are sitting there reacting, and it shows that they are not happy about the break. So here's my table of contents, and first we'll be going over the learning objectives. And then next we'll have a small introduction on DNA and radiation. We'll also go over the different types of DNA damage and then DNA repair mechanisms. And then we'll do a radiation-induced disruption on DNA repair. And then we'll have a small conclusion that goes over the little wrap-up of what radiation does to cells in DNA damage. So first, here are my learning objectives. First, we'll define what radiation is. We'll go over the different types of radiation. We'll learn what DNA is. We'll also understand how radiation affects DNA, and then what DNA repair mechanisms do and how they work. We also learn the different types of DNA damage induced by radiation, and we'll also learn the implications of damaged DNA repair on one's health. So here, what radiation is and what DNA is. So radiation, it is a form of energy that travels in forms of waves or particles. There are two main types. The first one is ionizing radiation. And in this type, it is where energy can detach electrons from atoms, which cause the creation of electrically charged particles. And there also is non-ionizing radiation. And in this type, it does not carry enough energy to ionize atoms. And then DNA. DNA is a molecule that carries genetic information for the development and functioning of an organism. It is two linked strands that wind around one another to make a shape known as a double helix. It is also called a twisted ladder. And here I included an image showing the twisted ladder. And you can just see the two strands that wind around one another. And there's parts in the middle that create the actual DNA. And now we're going to be going over the different types of DNA damage. Here I inserted a little picture showing exactly what causes DNA damage and then it's DNA's response to the damage. So some causes are cellular metabolism, and then there's replication error, ionizing radiation, UV lights, and then toxic chemicals. And then the different ways DNA damage is responded to, it is either checkpoint activation, and then there's different DNA repair mechanisms, and then there's also apoptosis, which is cell death. And we're going to go over the DNA repairs in a minute here. So first, DNA damage. It is a change or disruption that occurs in the DNA molecule caused by either environmental factors or just normal processes that happen inside our cells. And now from radiation, there's different types of DNA damage that is caused by radiation. So there's first single strand break, double strand break, base damage, interstrand crosslinks, and then reactive oxygen species, which is also known as ROS. So now here are the DNA damages. So for a single strand break, it is a break in one strand of the DNA double helix, and it is usually accompanied by loss of a single nucleotide. Then there's also double strand break. This one is one of the most harmful and mutagenic forms of damage. It is when the break occurs in both strands of the DNA. And then there's base damage. So radiation can cause double strand break directly, but it also causes damage to the base of the DNA makeup. Then there's interstrand crosslinks. This form is highly toxic DNA lesions that prevent transcription and replication by inhibiting DNA strand separation. And then finally, reactive oxygen species. This directly induces other forms of DNA damage through oxidizing nucleotide bases. So those are the 5 different types that are affected with radiation. And now here is DNA repair mechanisms. So I inserted a little chart just showing the DNA repair mechanisms and what they go for, what type of DNA damage. So I'll go over it a little bit. So for base damages, the different DNA repair mechanisms that go for that is BER and then NER. And then for double strand breaks, it is the HR and NHEJ. And then for DNA mismatch, it is the MMR repair mechanism. Okay, so now here are the DNA repair mechanisms. So there's the BER, which is the base excision repair. This corrects small DNA lesions. And then there's nucleotide excision repair, which is NER. This is used to remove bulky DNA lesions formed by UV lights. There's also mismatch repair, which is MMR, and this one's designed to recognize and restore misincorporations of single bases, deletions, and erroneous mini insertions. Then there's homologous recombination, which is HR. This repairs double-stranded breaks in DNA caused by ionizing radiation. And then there's non-homologous end joining, which pairs DNA ends in a multi-protein syncopatic complex to promote their direct ligation. So now, radiation-induced disruption on DNA repairs. So basically, when radiation causes a disruption on DNA repairs, there's a couple things that can happen. So first, there's inhibition of repair enzymes. So when radiation is affecting DNA, it can cause the function of key repair enzymes and proteins to be inactive. And these enzymes and proteins are needed for the involvement of the non-homologous ending joining and then the homologous recombination repair mechanisms. And when those are affected, it can lead to incomplete repair of the DNA damage. There's also overwhelming repair mechanisms. This is when there's a high level of DNA damage from radiation. It can cause the repair systems to be overflooded, leading to errors or causing failure of repair of the DNA damage. So those are just a couple things that can happen when radiation disrupts the DNA repair mechanisms. Then now here's just a little conclusion of factors that weigh in after radiation causes damage to the DNA repair mechanisms. So first we have genomic instability. So this causes an increase in mutation or chromosomal rearrangement. There's also cell death. If cells aren't repaired, it can cause apoptosis, which is cell death. It can also prevent cancer from the cells dying, but it can cause harm to normal tissues. There's also radiation sensitivity. Due to the radiation affecting the DNA, it is sensitive to further radiation due to the repair mechanisms being compromised by the initial radiation. And then there's also cancer. This is a main factor in radiation damaging DNA repair mechanisms. It can cause mutations that grow and that develop in cancer in the end result. So those are just a couple things that can occur when the DNA is being damaged by radiation. And here are my resources. I hope you enjoyed and learned a little bit about DNA damage. Thank you.